Humanity Matters.
Hello and welcome to another installment of Legacy Chronicles here on HMTV. I'm your host, Zachary Graulich, the Director of Education here at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. And today I am joined by Sophie Weisz, a 4G, otherwise known as a fourth generation Holocaust survivor. Sophie, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So going back, I'd love to touch upon your upbringing and if knowing that you were the descendant of Holocaust survivors is something that you essentially were always aware of, or if you remember finding out at a certain point in your life.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I always was aware of the fact that my great-grandparents were Holocaust survivors, but I didn't really know what that meant for early parts of my life. It was really when I was in third grade and I was doing a history project, we all had to pick a historical figure and learn about them. And my historical figure was Anne Frank. So this got me really looking into the Holocaust for the first time, learning about it, and it brought up those conversations. And so I began asking my dad what was our family's experience during the Holocaust, and we would just have these conversations, and I would get little bits of information over time, and I started reading as well some books, memoirs at the same time to learn both about the Holocaust in general as well as my family's story.
So you developed this passion for Holocaust education really early on. And, we know each other through the work that you do in your own community, Syosset, and of course the work that HMTC does within your community, which is how we met a couple of years back. So you go from learning about Anne Frank in elementary school to now being a part of your high school's annual International Holocaust Remembrance Day program. So how did you first get involved in that program, and why did you feel that it was something that was worthwhile for you to invest your time in?
I first got involved in the Holocaust Remembrance Day committee at my school, mostly by word of mouth. I had heard from my friends who were in older grades about this program that our school put on every year. And of course, I'd seen the art go up every year in the hallway, just commemorating Holocaust Remembrance Day each year. And I talked to my librarian, Miss Sergi, she's one of our leaders of the group, and I asked if I can join, and she was like, yes, of course. And as I got more involved, I just learned more and more.
So for any of our listeners who are not familiar with it, because it's a really unique program that, to my knowledge, across Long Island, really only Syosset is doing something to that scale or to that magnitude. What does the day actually look like, and what's the preparation on your side and your classmates' side in order to be ready for that program every year?
So there's definitely a lot of preparation that goes into the day because we're not only bringing in a survivor, we also have a breakout session later in the day to debrief it. We're layering in elements of music and art to really make it an experience for all of the students in the 10th grade, which this event is aimed at. And that preparation includes starting in October, we're meeting about, I'd say, every couple weeks with our committee, our advisors, to discuss our ideas. The advisors, Mr. Lowe and Ms. Sergi, they're dealing with the logistics, what day it is, how we get a survivor, but it's the students who really take the lead in dealing with how the event is actually run. In recent years, along with the center here, we've restructured breakout groups to really break down what the impact of the testimony is. So we've had Rosalie Simon coming the last couple of years, and what we do with her testimony is we ask students in their classes later that day, like, what does this mean to you? Questions about courage, how we can pull from it, and then we end the day out with a big collaborative art project. So the first year, this came in the form of a tree where everyone wrote on a leaf what their vision for a better future was based on what they had learned and discussed that day. And then last year when we did this again, we used butterflies, which of course symbolize the lives of children lost during the Holocaust. And on those butterflies, we wrote actions that students can take to make the world a better place themselves and to bring forward this legacy of combating hatred of all types.
I think what makes the program so special is the fact that, as you said, it's really driven by the students. You and your classmates are the ones running the program and facilitating those discussion groups after the testimony from Rosalie in the morning. So I know, thinking for myself, when I was, back in high school, if my school had offered such a program, I don't really think I would have engaged in it, not because I wouldn't have felt passionately about the topic, but frankly, I don't think I would have had the confidence or the ability to stand in front of my classmates, some of whom would be older at that point, and basically speak to them and lead a discussion for them about the importance of tolerance and Holocaust education. So was that something that was challenging for you at first, to prepare to, again, stand in front of your own classmates and essentially teach them not just about any topic, but about such a serious and important topic at that?
It definitely was a little bit scary at their first point, thinking, are they going to respond to the questions? Are they just going to sit there silently or be talking to their friends the whole time? But the more and more sessions I ran, I gained more confidence. And I think it's really helpful, the partnership that our school has with the center, because we're not just throwing 10th, 11th grade students to run sessions by themselves. They're doing it alongside docents from the center. And those docents have maybe like decades of experience in education and Holocaust education specifically. So there's a lot of support provided, and I never really felt alone in that.
And it's incredible. And I'd love to know, in your words, what has the impact of being a part of this program been for you? I mean, I think it's safe to say probably the most powerful part of the program is hearing testimony from Rosalie, as you've had the pleasure and privilege of now multiple times. So what kind of impact has that had on you, either personally, just in your own life, but also just for furthering perhaps your passion towards Holocaust education as a whole?
I think every time I hear from Rosalie, I can take something new away from it, which is really interesting, especially being so familiar with her story at this point. I just am compelled every time she opens her mouth to speak, listening to her stories of courage alongside her sisters. And it's something that really inspires me to be courageous in my own life. And in addition to being inspired by Rosalie, of course, I think every year I'm surprised by my own classmates to see what great ideas they have to bring to the table, because even those more quiet students, when you put them in a small group, allow them to discuss, a lot of them had a lot of great ideas that I hadn't even thought of ways we could be furthering tolerance in our education systems and in our lives, and issues that need to be addressed that adults might not be recognizing.
So I think one of the main reasons why you and I are sitting down today and having this conversation is the fact that throughout this summer, which is now unfortunately coming to an end, you have been interning with us here at HMTC. So I'd love to ask, what motivated you and prompted you in the first place, going back to the spring of this year, to reach out to us on your own to inquire about interning with us this summer?
When I was thinking about what to do for this summer, I was definitely deciding between, should I try out something new or should I expand upon something I've already been so involved with? And thinking back to my experiences last year and the year before working with the center, I felt like it was always just such a streamlined process, and everything went so well because of the dedication that the employees of the center, the volunteers, the docents, everyone provides, and the dedication you have to Holocaust education. And I really wanted to be a bigger part of that, to see some of the behind the scenes of what goes into planning these big events, maintaining a museum throughout the year. And I've definitely gotten a lot of that out of my experience this summer.
Yeah, I think we've exposed you to a lot of different areas of what working within a small museum looks like. The fact that from day to day, you never really know what to expect. And the reality is that no matter what your role is, whether you're a volunteer, staff member, there's always more to be done. And there's always something to be done that you may not have ever expected. And I think something that I really appreciated seeing in terms of getting to work with you this summer is the moments where you got to interact with the other members of our community. So last week we had a summer training session for all of our volunteers here at HMTC, including our docents, our legacy speakers, some of our library staff members, and you basically spent the day with our volunteers. As you said, many of them have been involved in the world of Holocaust education for years, if not decades. Many of them are children or grandchildren of Holocaust survivors themselves. So what was it like for you to get to be in those spaces and connect with people who you really have a very niche commonality with, not only just because of your interest, but of course, because of your family history?
It was a very powerful experience for me, especially we had the 2G brunch as well as the docent training, and to see like 50 people in one room all so passionate about Holocaust education. It was very uplifting because a lot of times you're just thinking, oh, who really cares? Who's here for this? But to see that many people so invested and engaging in further education, because a lot of them, children of survivors, have been engaged with the work for decades. As I said before, you might think, oh, they must know everything already, but it's a continuous process. They're learning from one another. And I just love those little moments where they'd pull me aside and be like, oh, let me tell you my mother's story, and gaining so much from that to see how this work has impacted them and how it only takes one person to make an impact and to take everything a step further.
And I think that it probably for you, it's safe to say, not that I want to speak for you, it probably made it more real for you as a 4G. What does the world of Holocaust education potentially look like for descendants of Holocaust survivors? As we are tragically shifting into a world where we have fewer and fewer Holocaust survivors with us to provide that firsthand testimony, I think it's so important that descendants of survivors, whether it be children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, understand what their role could be. And so I think it would probably be safe to say, and of course, please expand on it further, that maybe spending the summer with us here at HMTC has put a bit more of that into perspective as far as what the future for you could look like as a 4G.
I definitely agree. It's a rapidly evolving situation because so much of Holocaust education has now been based on you're listening to a survivor speak, you'll ask them some questions, and this is how our students have been learning it for the past few decades. But as we have less and less Holocaust survivors to share their stories, a lot of that responsibility does fall upon their descendants. And I think it almost gave me hope in a way to see all of these descendants so passionate about the education, because there's definitely concern, is Holocaust education going to be able to be sustainable without the survivors to share their stories? And I can confidently say that I believe, at least for the next few generations, it will be, because we have a lot of amazing 2G, 3G, even 4Gs that are very passionate about this work and will continue to share on their families' stories. And I even liked meeting the docents that did not have a direct connection to the Holocaust. Some of them weren't Jewish at all, and they were just educators or lawyers who knew people and wanted to get involved in it. Maybe they saw their kids at school listening to survivors and it really impacted them. I thought that was really meaningful as well, because you don't need to have a personal connection to be personally impacted by all these stories, because whether it be the devastating stories that our Holocaust survivors have went through or the miraculous feats they've survived, the courage of the righteous Gentiles and all of everyone around them that was able to help them survive. It's really amazing.
And part of that passion, whether it be from educators themselves or descendants of survivors, is figuring out new ways of aligning Holocaust education or interweaving Holocaust education into other areas of society and education. And one of those areas that we here at HMTC are newly exploring is developing a program specifically aimed at scouting groups across Long Island. And it was such a pleasant surprise about halfway through the internship this summer when I realized that you yourself are a lifelong Girl Scout and that you have personal knowledge, expertise, and experience in the area, which was just a perfect marriage between your passion for Holocaust education as well as your passion from being a scout. So for our listeners, this program that we are really launching here at HMTC called Seeds of Courage was initially started and developed by the Pittsburgh Holocaust Center. And through Sophie's help, we are trying to launch it really across Nassau and hopefully Suffolk counties. So for you, Sophie, you've worked closely with me this summer on developing the materials, giving us really great ideas for what this program could look like, which was really exceptional for me and my team here because I didn't really know the best way to approach developing a program for scouting groups, since I personally don't have any knowledge or experience of what it looks like to be a part of a scouting group. So for you, what has it been like to see that combination of two clear passions in your life come together almost unexpectedly?
I think what you say about it being unexpected is definitely, I agree with that. It is really special experience to see these two passions coming together. And something I really love about it is how we're building on the work of others. This Girl Scout in Pittsburgh, I've never met her before. I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but I just feel so connected to her and everyone else who's participated in this program already across the country. And it's so special that we're able to expand it, share the stories with all these Girl Scouts in our local community. And it's really just an amazing experience to offer these Girl Scouts. Bringing new people through the HMTC doors every day is really important. But I think the program we have is special because it's not only learning about the history, we're letting the Girl Scouts take it into their own hands. We have projects after where they can make blankets or create cards for survivors or contribute to a community rock garden, because we are all really part of this community, and it's taking that responsibility to take care of the survivors, share their stories with their friends, maybe even bring a survivor to their own school. And I love how we're engaging students into taking some responsibility and taking this action into their own hands.
Yeah, I think it emphasizes that, intolerance and hatred affects everybody, no matter where you come from, what you look like, what your beliefs are. Hatred can affect anybody. And therefore, combating hatred and promoting tolerance really is everybody's responsibility. And I think that's the power of Holocaust and tolerance education when you tie it into areas that previously may have been untapped, such as scouting programs or maybe art classes. You mentioned through the program that we do at Syosset that the concluding portion of the program is, some art element. It's changed and evolved over the years, but regardless, there's some art element there so that not only does it give the students the opportunity to be creative, but it also allows for that physical display that's then on view within the school, so that anybody, teachers, parents, students, visitors, when they walk through the halls, they see the display and it kind of draws them in. Well, what's this? What am I looking at? And what's the meaning behind this? And for some people, if art is really their passion, if art is really what draws them into a topic, that's the best way to really reach them educationally. A museum tour is wonderful for someone like me who loves museums, but it might not be the best mode of education for certain people. So I think that's the power in a program like what we're developing for the Girl Scouts, is that you have people who may not really feel so passionately about, history lessons and sitting in the classroom all day, but they love their weekly or bi-weekly Girl Scouting trips and meetings and events. And this is a way to really bring them in. So I'd love for you to speak to how you may see this program developing further in terms of how do you really get it into scouting groups, both within Nassau County or even beyond, because you have such great knowledge from this, lifelong experience you've had at this point within the Girl Scouts of Nassau County. So how do you really envision us reaching as many scouting groups as possible to make sure that this educational program is really reaching the right people and making the impact that we hope it will?
Well, I think we're already taking the steps towards that, which is something I love to see. Last week, we had a meeting with the programming directors from the Girl Scouts of Nassau County, and that gave us some really good insight into how we can work with them to promote this program. We're currently pursuing a pilot in some select troops in Nassau County, and in the future, I would love if we could also expand it to Suffolk. I think just seeing the impact once we bring those girls through the door, they're going to tell their friends, and more people will just keep coming. And this is a particular group. They're invested in creating a better world. That's part of the Girl Scouts mission, to make the world a better place, be a sister to every Girl Scout. And they'll also be learning about Girl Scouts around the world, how they helped out during World War II as spies and bringing people food, just part of the war effort. And that really gives agency to girls, I believe, because so often we think, oh, I'm too young, I don't have power, I can't change my situation. But it doesn't take much to make a difference. And by giving them the tools, the education, we're empowering young girls and possibly the Boy Scouts in the future as well to make change in their community and to promote tolerance wherever they go.
It's so well said, and I can't emphasize enough how impactful for us and helpful it's been to have you as a resource. And really, you're now becoming our unofficial ambassador in terms of connecting Holocaust education to the Girl Scouts and beyond, because it is so helpful to have someone like yourself who has experience and expertise in an area that, frankly, I don't have, nor do any of my team members here have. So you never really know what kind of is going to come around the door, as they say, and what people are going to be, coming into your life that have expertise or experience in areas that you might not have ever thought of before, or you didn't really know how to navigate it. And now we have someone like you who can really share your own opinions with us and what you think is going to make this program as powerful as possible. So it's really incredible in that sense. For you, as we kind of look to the future, I know that while your internship here at HMTC is coming to a close, this is not going to be the end of your experience in terms of the world of Holocaust education by any means. I know how passionately you feel about Holocaust education in general, as well as making sure that your own family experiences are shared and preserved. So how do you see yourself and your journey going from here as a 4G as you continue through high school and then, of course, go off into the rest of the world?
Well, throughout the next year, I think it will very closely resemble the work I've already been doing within the committee at my school, stepping into more of a leadership role. And I definitely see myself remaining involved with the center here. And as I go on in life, finding those other resources, maybe a different local Holocaust center to get involved with. Right now, I'm working on looking into my own family's history. I have boxes and boxes of documents at my house that I've just been going through to kind of gather that history because, like we said earlier, we are at this turning point in Holocaust education where the responsibility is beginning to fall upon a new generation. I know that my generation is going to be the last ones to hear from these Holocaust survivors firsthand, so it's so important that we get those stories and preserve them to be shared with everyone we know, including people we haven't met yet, future generations. So I'm definitely going to be working to continue in Holocaust education to preserve the memory of all those who we've lost and the stories of our survivors.
So as we close here, I always like to end our episodes with words of encouragement or something just to give our listeners hope, or really even a call to action, perhaps, for anybody who's listening who might feel compelled to do something in their own community or in their own family. So I'd love to know if you have any personal words of encouragement or anything that you would say to somebody who's listening to this episode right now who either has a passion for Holocaust education, maybe they don't have a family connection, but they just have a passion and they want to do something to further it, or maybe they do have a family connection, whether they be a 2G, 3G, 4G, but they don't really know where to begin. What is something that you might say to encourage them to, expand their efforts and really make a difference in their own community?
I would say don't be afraid to ask the hard questions and to do the research yourself. Yes, the Holocaust, it's a devastating topic to learn about, but it's so important to see where intolerance gets us and also the courage and the kindness of people, even in the darkest times. That is a very uplifting message. I think so often we're scared to look into the history because obviously, yes, it is scary. These stories are not comfortable, but we must listen to them. We must listen to our survivors, read the books, do the research so that we can realize where intolerance leads us and we can prevent that. We can make a difference. And whether you're the family of a survivor, whether you're just a student sitting in a classroom, you can make a difference. It doesn't take a lot to go to your friends that maybe don't have a Holocaust program and share the story. I know in New York, we're very fortunate to have a lot of survivors, but in places like Idaho, I know you've done virtual Holocaust survivor visits. And I think it's so important for people to just share the stories with all the people they know, tap into your resources because you have a voice, you have power, and you can use that to make a positive difference.
So well said. And I just have to express one more time how wonderful it's been to get to spend this time with you this summer. As I said, I've known you for a couple of years now through our work at SciOSIT, but getting to work with you so closely and to get to know more about you and your passion, and now knowing the experiences and the passion you have as far as the Scouts go, it's just such an incredible joy for us to work with you. And we know that this is going to be not the end, but the beginning of the next chapter in the relationship between HMTC and you. And we already have plans, as you know, to continue that process from here. So really, thank you so much for being a part of our HMTC family. Thank you for being here on this episode today. It's really, really appreciated.
Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, thank you as always for tuning in to HMTV. We really appreciate it. And you can listen to more episodes at hmtcli.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you enjoyed exploring the information, history, and stories in today's conversation, be sure to check out our other podcasts here on HMTV. Please subscribe, share, and stay connected for more engaging conversations.
Humanity Matters.